Kia ora. Tia tangaro, Mad Chef Red. And I want to do something I don't normally do, which is an unboxing and a talking about a cookbook. This cookbook's... Well, I'll tell you what, I'll just show what cookbook it is and we'll start talking about it. And we can all deal. So... followed me for any length of time, you would know that I've been searching for a copy of this Noma by Rene Redzepi, a protege of Adrian Ferrano, whose books you can see behind me, the yellow and red ones next to the ones labeled 125. Redzepi was a sous chef at El Bulli before he opened Noma. And he was there at a time that El Bulli was considered the best restaurant in the world. And his restaurant, Noma, 2010 plus, was considered the best restaurant in the world, even though it never actually, at the time, it didn't have 3 stars. I'm not sure if it ever did get 3 stars and defend them. At the end of the day, it doesn't. The significance of this book has nothing to do with Noma itself, actually, and the food that's in here. I mean, this is Nordic food, and to me, it's the significance of this book to me, and it's a lot of significance. I had a copy of this, and I lost it in a divorce. And I bought it just as it went out of print in 2016. So it's taken me 6 years to replace this. It goes in specialty bookstores for $300 plus US dollars. When I got my first copy, it was $50 US dollars. I did not pay $300 for this. I got it from Booktopia, managed to get it for the Australian list price, which was $79, but it has been on back order for 14 months. To the point that Booktopia had contacted me about a dozen times telling me, you should really cancel this, we don't know when we're going to get it. And I was like, no, I want this book. So I got a copy, and I got a copy for a non-collector's price, and as you see, I've just torn the plastic off it because I'm a monster. I'm not one of those chefs that just puts these things on the shelf. Every single cookbook that you see behind me has been read. I've got folios of notes on them and stuff like that. Like these are the tools of my trade, the fundamental building blocks in which everything else flows from. And that's why Noma to me is such a significant cookbook. Unlike, say, A Work in Progress by Rene Redzepi or On Fermentation by Rene Redzepi, both of which I have currently over in the pile. Those two works, Fermentation and A Work in Progress, kind of aren't particularly satisfying to me because they show behind the scenes. Fermentation is a specialist treatise about lacto fermentation, yeast-based fermentations, things like that. It's a good book, but it's a technical treatise. It's like the 2 white ones labelled 1 to 5 up on that side. They're technical manuals. They're not particularly inspiring. Same with Ferrano's books. They're not really inspiring. They're not going to set the world on fire when you read them. They're not going to set you on fire if you read them. They're kind of dense, technical treatises, and that's a good thing. There's a place for those cookbooks. A lot of chefs have them a lot of people have them just for the prestige, because those guys, so that set there that I'm putting my finger at, which is Modernist Cuisine, is $1,200. Modernist Bread, which is next to it, is $800. And the El Bulli collection is $2,200. There's about another 8 books to complete that set that I'd like to get. 4 of them are in Catalan, not even Spanish, a dialect of Spanish. But you're looking at individual books that cost $200-300 US each. So Noma to me was more important to get a hold of. And why is Noma important? Well, you got to understand that being a chef is about telling a story. Ideally your story, but not necessarily your story. Sometimes it is telling people a story that they want to hear. And so you need the language for it. That's the purpose of the technical treatises. They're the chef equivalent of dictionaries, thesauruses, manuals of style. To a professional writer, these things are definitely required, needed, and kind of expected. Those big, dense, heavy, multi-volume cookbooks behind me, that's what they are. The manuals of style, dictionaries, thesauruses. Thesauruses? Anyway, thesaurusi. Anyway, it's just fun to mess around with the ending of words like thesaurus. Anyway, so the significance of Noma is René Redzepi was kind of the first successful chef to abandon heavily French influenced food. And you got to understand that for the better part of 150 years, French food was kind of the default. Good thing. Hello, you little monster. I know, you're not really a monster. I'm the monster. The monster lives within me. Where was I? Okay, French influence. It goes back 150 odd years to the first celebrity chef, Marie-Antoine Cadem, if you want to be American about it, but Cadem. He was the first major international celebrity chef. He was post-French Revolution, cooked for several important members of Napoleon's various regimes, ended up cooking for important members of the Pan-European Union that helped kick the shit out of Napoleon twice, ultimately ended up cooking for King George. And he kind of set this idea that French cooking was better than anyone. And then a guy called Augustin Escoffier came along, and he kind of did exactly the same thing, you know, the emperor of chefs, or the chef of emperors. And they formalised and set very solid, very strict rules as to what cooking was and wasn't, what French cooking was and wasn't. And because they formalised it so well, it was able to become the dominant cuisine just because it was easy to teach people. And so then it spreads all around the world. Like, you've got the most powerful empire in the world. King of England is, ruler thereof, King of England is eating French food. Combine that with Francophilic tendencies from the Norman invasion, yada, yada, yada. So things, and combine that with a bit of stupidity of the Mediterranean diet, or a French interpretation of the Mediterranean diet hanging around since the 80s. Certain things like olive oil, butter, non-seasonal food, all of these things crept into fine dining. Along with the idea that you could always give the customer everything they wanted all year round. At Noma, you couldn't. It was a restaurant that was open all year round, but the menu was seasonal. So if they couldn't get it locally, it wasn't on the menu. There was no olive oil. The type of butters that we used were fundamentally changed. He was the first chef, the first large-scale successful chef to do things like wild harvesting. It actually became a bit of a trope that food writers would do a bit about their urban harvesting with René Redzepi, to a point that then jokes were made about that. It became very meta. Anyway, the importance of René Redzepi's Noma to me as a Maori chef trained in Australia is not the Nordic food itself. It's the fact that he articulated, and it was the first time I saw articulated, the idea that you don't there is no reason to not do seasonal food. There is no reason why a customer should be able to wander in the middle of winter in Hartford, Connecticut, and expect to see Roma tomatoes on the shelves. It kind of has become a core belief of myself, and one that I haven't really been able to explore, but I have a core belief that you shouldn't be able to get certain things all year round. You should not be able to get beef in the middle of winter. At least you shouldn't, because you don't kill cows in winter if you can avoid it. You shouldn't be able to get lamb in the middle of winter. Like, I get it. The logistical chain exists. And the concept of being able to have everything all year round is ingrained in people. But I don't care, because I think not being able to get what you want all the time makes it more sweet when you do. We could say this is the culinary equivalent of edging, the delayed gratification to increase the orgasm through anticipation. But it's kind of like, what is more beautiful? The first love in which you tear each other's clothes off and you do everything the other person wants all the time. Or that kind of a little bit more mature love that you have to work with, where both people have scars and are a bit scary and a bit scared and a bit reluctant. In my opinion, the more mature, slightly hesitant, reluctant love is, in my experience, the better of the two. Like, don't get me wrong, there is something beautiful about being, that innocent first blush of being able to do everything, but it kind of, I don't know. I think there is something special about having to wait for things. And Noma articulates that better than I am right now, because I just worked a 12-hour shift and I've come straight home and I'm exhausted and I should have a shower and stop smelling like a monster. But didn't want to, because I knew this book had arrived and I was excited about it. And to me, it's still an exciting book. It's still an exciting concept of telling people, no, we're not going to cater to your Western palate. It doesn't matter. Yeah, you can go to Coles and buy a tomato all year round. It doesn't matter, we're not throwing tomatoes in our salad in the middle of winter. I don't care that Walmart, sells beef all year round, or you can get fucking frozen walleye or whatever in the depths of winter. I don't care. I'm going to use fresh, I'm going to use local, I'm going to use seasonal. I'm going to respect and enjoy the turn of time on this earth, because that's all there is. And so for me, I wandered through most of my apprenticeship this kind of half-formed idea, and then stumbled across a replay of the Anthony Bourdain bit where he was interviewing, he was at a Ferrano's kitchen, El Bulli. El Bulli's closed now. It's now 2022, and it's been closed for approximately 8 years. Ferrano was meant to open something else, but it never really happened, etc. Blah blah blah, and that's cool. Where do you go once once you've hit the very top of the universe? Where else is there to go? Sometimes it's best to just you've told your story, walk on. And yeah, so to me the book is important, not for the individual recipes, not for the ingredients or the style, but it was the first time I saw a philosophy of cooking that I agreed with. And that's why I've tried so hard to get this book. It literally, it is very rare in this life that you will find a book that speaks to an idea that you don't know how to articulate. And when you do, it's beyond falling in love with somebody. It opens up. Having someone else able to articulate an idea that you have tends to throw that idea into full. It takes it from a half-formed, nebulous black and white thing and throws it into stark, high-definition, full colour. It's quite a mind-blowing moment, not just to finally be able to articulate what you're doing, but to realise you're not the only person trying to articulate this. And particularly with something like cooking, if you are like me, I was a mature age apprentice. I was 27 when I started my apprenticeship. If you already have half-formed ideas of your culture, etc., or what you want to do, and you end up cooking in a predominantly male-dominated, French-influenced, European-themed restaurant, and you are not any of those things, it can be quite a lonely feeling, because the things you want to cook and your experiences of cooking will be vastly different from those of the people around you and the people that are trying to train you. And you very quickly learn as a first-year apprentice that no one actually cares what the fuck you have to say. As I said to a commie, like when I was a second year, and I was told that, you shouldn't really be talking about anything until you've qualified. I'm like, my ideas aren't going to change when I qualify. They're not going to be any less valid or any more valid just because I got a piece of paper. Like, I didn't go into cooking when I was 27. I had years of experience in it beforehand. And fundamentally, I don't think my philosophy of cooking and what I would like to achieve and what I'd like to do has changed. I'm no longer sure if it's even possible for me to do what I would like to do. But my idea of what cooking is and what it means and its importance hasn't changed. And that goes right back to when I was working in a hospital giving people cups of tea. I remember saying to people, it's quite a humbling experience when people are literally dying and the only thing you can do is ask them if they want a cup of tea, coffee or a cold drink. And it was in those experiences, it was quite powerful because you can't do anything but that. But you're also one of the few people that a patient in a hospital is going to see when you work patient support services and you deliver meals. You're one of the few staff members they're going to interact with. They're not going to poke or prod them. And the only thing you can really offer them is empathy and a cup of coffee. And that changes a lot. Like, if you see the same person on the ward all the time, you start learning what they, where they want a cup of coffee, how they have it. It's not a huge connection to somebody. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say you're saving lives and changing the world. But that small touch of humanity ends up meaning so much to people. I actually got a couple of thank you cards from people that had been in various wards I'd worked in for weeks. And the fact that even though I wasn't on their ward every single day, I still usually remembered how they had their coffee or their tea and what kind of biscuits they liked. And that ended up meaning an awful lot to people. And once again, I'm not going to sit there and say that, saving lives and, changing the world or anything, but it still means something to people. It still means a lot to them. It can mean an awful lot to people. And I think fundamentally cooking is the same. It is probably one of the most intimate acts you're allowed to do in public. Is feeding someone. And you're really gifting someone life, and you are giving them another day of life and hope and all that good stuff. I really need to clean that desk behind me. It's embarrassing. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up because I need to have something to eat. But yeah, this is This is Noma, and this is why this book means so much to me. And I finally managed to get myself a copy after trying for years. Yeah. Stay safe.